We've seen all the video call fails by now. The mute button mishaps, the cat cameos, people not realizing the camera's on when their pants are off. But none of this makes Fred feel any better about giving an entire sales pitch, mistakenly using a filter that turns him into an itsy-bitsy baby duck.
How do I turn this thing off?
It's too late, Fred. It's too late. When you realize it's better to do business in person, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to the Hilton Garden Inn, Fred. The meeting room is right down the hall.
Hilton, for the stay.
Walmart Plus members save on meeting up with friends. Save on having them over for dinner with free delivery with no hidden fees or markups. That's groceries, plus napkins, plus that vegetable chopper to make things a bit easier. Plus, members save on gas to go meet them in their neck of the woods. Plus, when you're ready for the ultimate sign of friendship, start a show together with your included Paramount Plus subscription. Walmart Plus members save on this plus so much more. Start a 30-day free trial at walmartplus.com. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, residents now know why the local funeral home offered deep discounts on cremations. The director was secretly selling body parts for profit. We'll talk about the podcast, Cover Up, Body Brokers. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, the very small-haired Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
You mean I'm not that close to God because I have the short cut?
You're not.
Okay.
You also look very high and tight right now. Did you recently get a haircut?
I did. I wanted to look sharp for you.
Oh, did you notice that I got a haircut as well?
You just came in from the salon.
I did.
You look great.
Thank you very much.
I don't see any grays anymore.
Thank you. I have to maybe start tinting my eyebrows next. I'm starting to get some grays in my eyebrows. It's embarrassing. Also with us is private investigator. I know Toby can relate. Private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hello, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca. And I am I am totally gray right now. So I'm very envious of your beautiful hair.
You know, I started going every 12 weeks for years. And it was because we didn't have any money for a really long time. And I was being really if I was going every 16 weeks and then I was going every 12 weeks. And now I'm I'm a grown up. I'm over 50 now. I have to go more frequently because it's starting to look bad. So I started going every 10 weeks. I'm much happier now. Just much, much happier.
Oh, I go every 5.
My lady was like, you were here we were going on vacation. She's like, you were here 9 weeks ago. I'm like, I like this even better. Can we make it 9 weeks now? It's really exciting.
You go to the salon more than funeral directors do.
That's true. And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
Toby, how frequently do you get a haircut?
It's probably about once a month.
Yeah. You guys need them often.
Wow.
Well, keep it short.
Yeah, if my hair grows 2 inches, it's super noticeable.
How much do man cuts cost these days?
With the tip, I don't know, low to mid 30s.
What do you pay, Kevin?
Yeah, because I also sometimes get my beard done, so $45 and then the tip.
You go to the barber in town.
The local barber, yes.
Yeah, we have a real barber with a pole outside and everything. It's really charming.
In the village, yeah.
I go to Supercuts, and the woman who cuts my hair there is a big basketball fan, so we just chat hoops while she does my hair.
Kevin's a Supercuts survivor. Yeah.
Man, I got no problem.
Yeah.
My hair is not complicated.
I had a problem with Supercuts.
No, he was going to Supercuts all the way up until this barbershop opened in town. He loved it, and he always looked great. And I, by the way, I didn't mean that in an insulting way. I was just being cheeky because it was an alliteration.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to add me for Supercuts stuff. I just thought it would sound funny.
Well, I had a bad Supercuts experience. I mean, I went in one time and just got a quick haircut, and my hair didn't match on either side. It was short on one side and long on the other. And I was like,
That's kind of what your hair looks like in the drawing of you that Jeff Lasseter did.
I know. Yeah, it does. That's kind of what it looks like. Straight on my wall in my office.
You have that sort of Canadian Karen haircut. That's a little asymmetrical. What do you pay to get your hair done, Laura? Is it a lot or a little? You don't have to tell me what, but you can tell me is it a lot or a little?
Well, I have a situation. We shouldn't say. I have a bartering situation for my hair. So.
How do I get one of those?
I trade social media services for my
Oh, I thought you were going to say you trade cremation services for haircuts.
I thought you were going to say you trade pet detectivery for your hair.
No, just social media services.
Good. That's really good.
I also, for a while, was trading social media services for wine. Like, I just come up with all these situations. I'm like, I want that. I will do this and I will get that.
Wow. We need to get Laura to do some negotiating for us, Kevin. What can you get for us?
I also got some chicken one time.
Wow. We don't get
like
anything.
Freaking cavemen in Exeter, man. You just
It's like
You
Little
just show
House on
up
the
with shit to
Prairie
barter.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I found out bartering's illegal. So hopefully nobody listening to this comes out.
bartering's
It's illegal.
illegal.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's illegal.
in the
How
state
so?
or in the,
Yeah, you can
in
get-
the nation?
In the state. I think I'm not sure. I think for like tax purposes, like you can't say you're doing
No, that can't be right.
Like somebody moves my shit from one apartment to the other, and I take them out for beers and.
Well, no, like I was doing it in the context of like I was doing like publicity services and I was doing paid publicity services. But then in some situations, I was doing like these little barters.
Oh. So you're no longer breaking the law.
No, I've moved on.
So I'm going to leave on the podcast then.
I haven't got any chicken lately.
But this is what doesn't make sense. There's no income tax in New Hampshire. So you're
Right.
not cheating
What
the
are you
state
cheating?
by not getting paid, you know?
Exactly. All right. So, Kevin, this is obviously Monday's program.
Yes, it is.
What's coming up on future episodes of Crime Writers On?
On Thursday, we're going to be doing a classic rewind.
What is
we're
it
gonna,
of?
We're going to talk about our review of Murder on Middle Beach.
Yay!
That's a
Oh,
classic.
nice.
One of my actually, I think it's my all-time favorite documentary.
Yeah, we were recording something ahead of time, and you were talking about. You said Madison Hamburger, and I thought
Madison Hamburg.
Madison Hamburg, and I thought his name was Burger, and so I spent all this time like trying to edit out ham, like, and it just was like Madison. It just like didn't sound natural.
And then you looked it up.
Then I was like, oh yeah, it's actually she. That was a
Madison
waste of 20
Hamburg.
minutes. Madison Hamburg. Then on Monday, we're going to be talking about the 3-part documentary on Max. It's called The Truth About Jim.
Oh, the one about my boss.
Different Jim.
Oh.
Can we everybody just mark this on their calendars just to remember and memorialize it? While I've been sitting here, all of a sudden I started getting a ringing in my ear. Like tinnitus?
Tinnitus. Yeah.
So I think from here on out, the rest of my life, I'm going to have this, right? Like I sat down and I didn't have it, and now it's...
No, sometimes it can be intermittent.
Okay.
I get it sometimes, yeah. And it
just
goes
like
away.
getting a little buzzing in your ear.
just a little high, just
Yeah,
like
I
a
get
little
that.
tone.
I get that.
Oh, you get that?
I
Oh,
get it
okay.
too.
Yeah.
All right, so just old age. It's
old age.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but except I got it when I was like in my 20s too. But for me, it would go away after like 5 minutes. It's not like a.
Oh, well, it's still going on. Let's check in
All
at
right.
the end of the show.
Do you know
see
what
if there's no problem.
happens? You know why it happens?
Why?
Because you pee on the bathroom floor.
Oh, eat it.
There's a callback.
Just a little collateral damage. My goodness.
That's what happens when you get old, Rebecca. You can't aim.
Some of us were in a hurry.
I sent an email to the
Are you
cleaning
positive that that's what that is, and it's not the drippings from the sink when you
Kevin.
wash your hands and you bring your hands
Kevin.
over to get the towel?
I am 100%.
That wasn't what sprang to mind when I was thinking of urine alternatives on your by your toilet. But
It's definitely pee.
Wow. There's so much happening.
All right.
now.
I think we should make the delightful transition to talk about the very grim thing we're about to talk about. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's change the timbre of the conversation, shall we? Change the mood?
no.
Take it down a little bit? Let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about and drop that first clip. Leading off.
But I opened the freezer door, and the bodies, there were so many bodies. They were stacked on the shelves where they were supposed to be, and then they were just kind of piled together on a couple of gurneys in the middle. Some of them had sheets over them, some of them didn't.
Sunset Mesa Funeral Home was a trusted business for bereaved residents in Montrose, Colorado. Director Megan Hess smooth-talked family members and offered steep discounts on cremations for those who donated their bodies to science. But the community was shocked when it learned the ashes in their urns were not those of their loved ones.
There was all kinds of metal pieces mixed in with the cremains. There was a backing to a wristwatch. There was parts from a metal zipper. There were metal rivets that are on blue jeans, around the pockets, the metal rivets.
Investigators discovered customers were being misled as to how their remains would be used. Hess was getting rich in the shadowy world of body dealing. In the back room, she was dismembering heads and limbs to be illegally sold to medical companies for research.
And he said, Julie, it looks to me like she sold his head and his shoulders and arms and his legs. And I don't know if I could say this on your podcast, but I said, his fucking head, John.
From Sony Music Entertainment, Campside Media, and Black Bar Mitzvah comes Cover Up, Body Brokers. The podcast recounts how Hess and her mother harvested body parts from their funeral home while giving families cremains from a mixed pile of ashes. Host Ashley Fantz talks to investigators, Sunset Mesa employees, and loved ones affected by the scam. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from Cover Up Body Brokers. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. And I just want to add that just as the podcast does, we should probably give a disclaimer that some of the material in this podcast is pretty, what's the word, Kevin? Explicit, grim, bodily stuff. It's bodily stuff. So I just want to throw that out there because I think we should, right?
Okay, I don't know.
We're talking about severed heads. I just want to throw it out there.
Would not be the first time.
Right, Laura? I mean, your first note. A lot of details in this podcast, right?
Yeah, chainsaws, heads in bags. I feel like this podcast, obviously there's a bigger issue here, but I feel like there was a lot of shock value details in this that we heard them once and I'm like, okay, I get it. But why do we have, I felt like it was part of the telling of the story was to see how much more they could shock us by continuing to tell us the details over and over again. When personally, I think there were some other angles to this that I would have liked to see explored. But yeah, there is a lot of fluids leaking out of boxes, shipping things that shouldn't be shipped in non-medical boxes, and gold teeth getting yanked out of heads.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, I know I'm moving ahead, but there's an interview in this podcast with a former body broker who was arrested and convicted for basically some fraud stuff he was committing. And he very sort of nonchalantly tells you the story of how he got into body brokering. He worked at a college and he was sort of accepting bodies in for the college. And then he started a side business with the college's permission. And that side business was so lucrative that he became a full-time body broker and got really rich. And then he started cutting corners. And he does tell this story about shipping a leg across the country, in a box that was meant for a salmon.
One of the boxes broke. And since this is fresh tissue, some of the stuff starts defrosting, and I got a phone call asking what this pink solution could be leaking out of the boxes.
I thought that was actually one of the best interviews in the podcast because it was very illuminating as to how common and normal it is. I mean, that body brokerage is just, an unregulated industry that literally anybody could get into. Toby, if you want to, Toby, tomorrow you can start a body brokerage. I mean, were you surprised to hear that you could start a body brokerage tomorrow if you wanted to? More easily than you could start probably a podcast studio.
Was I surprised? Yeah, I guess so. I hadn't really thought about the whole body part trade until I started listening to this podcast. I mean, a lot of what I think this comes down to is just kind of no or very lax regulation. There's so many different types of business and stuff. Regulating all of them is tough. And this one seems to have fallen through the cracks, either because of regulations or regulatory capacity or whatever. But the results are kind of alarming. The one example that stuck out to me was shipping a head through the mail with blood seeping out of this box. It's so over the top. It's almost hard to believe. Although at the same time, the more you kind of hear about this little operation, it's well, of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was kind of low rent and half-assed all the way through.
It's a dick in a box.
The thing that struck me, Kevin, especially when I was listening to that interview with this guy, but also with the other parts of this podcast, especially hearing about Shirley, Megan's mom, right?
Yeah.
There comes a point when you decide to do this work, and you're not a medical professional and whatever, there comes a point where you're in front of your first body And, we're watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith right now, right? And there's this scene where like they put a body in the bathtub and they have to take it apart. And they're like, and they're like trained assassins, right? And they're like getting really sick, right? There comes a point where it just, you like can nonchalantly just take a chainsaw and like cut off an arm, right? Nonchalantly cut off the hip to knee, nonchalantly cut off a head, right? We, in our regular American Western thoughts about bodies and death, like that is so far from what we think about, right? Like we are so divorced from the whole idea of being around dead people.
Yeah, in our culture, like we're very close to birth, but we're not close to death. It's often, pushed away. It's, what happens in the back room of the funeral parlor is like something very different.
Mystical.
But it's kind of like what we want. We have a lot of, it's a closed casket. We're shielded from it. Gone are the days of like family members washing and preparing the body in some cultures, or stretching out the body on the table for an Irish wake. We don't regard the body of a loved one once they've died in the way that other cultures have in the past, or whatever. Or maybe
still
you do.
Yeah.
Still do, right? But all that is to say that it sort of leads to an opportunity for a funeral director to do whatever they want with the body, because no one is there watching it, right? And it's just like, okay, because like when somebody dies, obviously there's a lot of, you got a lot going on. You would never think like, oh, well, this beloved funeral director, they're treating things this way, they're doing, you just wouldn't know, because you couldn't do something super funky in a birth because everybody's there and watching and whatnot. But with the death, it's just sort of a kind of secrecy about what happens after death that it just created an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why, she's able to take advantage.
Yeah. Two things, Laura. One is, like, I think that I'm going to prefer to be cremated, right? One is I 100% want somebody to witness my cremation after listening to this podcast.
Could be you, Laura. That's fine.
100% I want someone, even if it's just literally, they don't have to watch it's like my body in a box, like please watch the box go into the thing. I just really want someone to be, but by the way, I remember from my podcast OPP and Ask a Funeral Director, like we did a segment on that, and that was like, that's something you can do. Number two, when I renew my license, I am unchecking the whole body box and checking the organ donation box after listening to this podcast. Were you surprised to learn the sweeping difference between whole body versus organ donation opportunity here?
It was like a chop shop, for crying out loud, like a body chop shop. Like when they were going through like what a leg is worth, a head is worth, an arm is worth, like that was very disturbing. I mean, when you hear about how, especially that interview with the guy who was in the business, and he gets into it and then he starts realizing that too. And he's just like, I just like had some frozen legs in the freezer. And you're like, oh, okay. So like when people contact him, he's just got parts ready to ship, piecemeal. It was a lot. And I think the thing that frustrates me the most about this, having listened to this whole podcast, is that I feel like this industry is still, for the most part, pretty much unregulated. Like Colorado now, now you actually can go in a funeral home to inspect it, whereas before you couldn't.
You had to have their permission beforehand, or you had to let them know.
Yeah, this isn't like the only case. Like we had the case near us, which they did mention this, the Harvard Medical School case. There have been lots of cases like this. It's like, it reminded me a little bit of like when we had that guy, the Hep C guy that was a traveling technician.
Oh, Kwiatkowski,
that showed up at Exeter Hospital and was like doing drug diversion and infected all these people with hepatitis C. And he had been like let go from all these other places, but there wasn't like a database to track, bad people that weren't doctors that were working in hospitals. And it's like this, it's like in the funeral home industry and this body broker industry. I mean, when you hear about organ donation, like I'm thinking, oh, I'm donating my organs to somebody who might need them, or, oh, maybe like science, but I don't know. It gives me pause.
Well, listen, I don't want to like completely thumbs down like whole body donation. Like we need body farms to learn how forensic science. Like we need bodies for cadaver. We need that.
Yeah. We do.
That being said, it seems like kind of a crapshoot what could happen to your body if you unless you specifically say, I want my body to only do this. But then even then, it seems like that might not be what happens. And if you really don't care, which is fine. I mean, I kind of don't care, which is one reason why I want to be cremated. That being said, maybe I kind of do, because I want my organs to go somewhere. But, I also kind of want to know that like my head isn't going to be shipped in a box across the country with the hair still on.
With your hair still on.
I know I'm going to be dead. I know I'm going to be dead. But Toby, why do we feel this way? We're going to be dead. Why do we feel this way?
I don't feel that way. I'm 100% willing to send my body off to some medical school.
I'm kind of willing to send off to medical school too, but for some reason I'm not willing to take the chance that my head could be shipped across the country in a box to a collector who just wants to have a bunch of heads in their house. Which, by the way, is a part of this that they didn't talk about in the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's so much sort of religious and cultural stuff around how you deal with dead bodies, right? There's huge variance. There's people who put a lot of importance on proper burial, or in this case, like having the right ashes, like not having somebody else's ashes. Like it's not a symbolic thing. Like it's like, I literally want the ashes of my dad in this urn, and that's super important. That was one of the things for me was I was listening to these people talk about this stuff in a way that was much, much more passionate than I think I would be about the same thing. And that got me kind of wondering, it's like, so what's behind all this? Like, is it a religious thing? Is it like a cultural thing? Like I don't even know like what the breakdown is in our country about like who gets cremated, who gets buried, stuff like that. Like I haven't the foggiest clue. Like, do 50% of people get cremated? 20%, 5%? So, this is all kind of happening without like sort of the context of how do we as a country deal in general with our dead. And instead it was sort of this kind of interesting story, but I think there were some aspects of, especially the people's response to this, that I felt could have been sort of explained a little bit more or explored a little bit, because I wasn't always completely clear like where they were coming from, other than just being super, super upset.
Yeah, and if you join us on Patreon, you can cremate Rebecca's body.
Oh, Jesus, Kevin.
Or
that's quite the transition to the business section.
I'm just saying.
Is that the $15 level, Kevin?
At the premier level.
Wait.
We will send you Toby Ball's body. And
to do with as you please, because he doesn't care.
Do as you please, he doesn't care. Hey, joining us on Patreon doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Oh, yes.
I know you were waiting for that one.
Yes.
Go to patreon.com.
Don't lose your head. Don't lose your head.
Crime Media.
Join our Patreon.
You get episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad-free there. You can...
This is why you're not allowed in the word barn anymore, Kevin.
This is why. I'm just inappropriate. Hey, this week we do not have an after show, but we do have a special in the feed. We have a copy of Rebecca's discussion on wrongful convictions with an all-star panel, including Maggie Freeling, Amber Hunt, and Rabia Chaudhry.
Yes.
It was recorded in Dallas in October.
Yes.
Can't remember what we were doing then, but we got it. We got the audio.
Yes.
And it's a great hour-long discussion, so I know you'll enjoy that. And other cool things you can get at our Patreon include Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Toby's always doing books, but this time they're doing a discussion of a film. It was a book. Already talked about the book Killers of the
Flower Moon. It's
cover of a cover. So Toby's doing Hearts Alone with this Martin Scorsese film. Tell us about the discussion, Toby. Were people...
Very good, Kevin. Deep cut.
It was a deep cut. Yeah, cover of a cover. Or Torn by Natalie Imbruglia.
Yeah, cover of a cover.
Yeah, okay. Toby, what did you think of the film?
It has its issues, right? There were good parts about it, but it's the story of some white guy experiencing, devastation and trauma to the Osage Nation, and it's kind of a weird focus to have given what the subject matter is. You get a lot of DiCaprio, let's put it that way.
Yep.
Other things include Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker, and in the latest episode, Laura learns a new skill.
Yeah, well, I haven't put it into use yet, but I am going to learn maybe how to saber a I am going to learn maybe how to saber a champagne bottle. Good Lord. This happened at my No Rules Book Club, which is also known as the No Rules Book, Gun, Smut, and Saber Club now. So you're going to be learning what's happening at the book club and why we were sabering champagne.
So I want to remind folks that we are just a couple of weeks away from Exeter Lit Fest. And if you're thinking of coming to New Hampshire for this event, you should know that we're going to be having a Crime Writers On live show adjacent to the event. So we're going to be putting out more information about what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be doing that night. One great way to get that information and stay abreast of everything going on so staying abreast is also something else you could ship in the mail.
Oh.
I'm just saying. I wasn't the one with the chainsaw.
You can't. One could.
One could. You could sign up for our newsletter. Go to crimewriterson.com. Put your email in the little slot, and we will send you a newsletter once a week. Now, we also have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things. Rebecca, you influencer, what are this week's CWO Amazon recommendations?
I like the handmade brand. That's the brand, handmade, luxurious cashmere socks. I wear size medium.
And what are your listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations?
I got some good ones, Kevin. I've got the Cremo Rich Lathering Palo Santo Body Wash for Men, notes of bright cardamom, dry papyrus, and aromatic Palo Santo 16 fluid ounces.
Wow.
And I've also got the Do You Care Flat Top Kabuki Foundation Brush Synthetic Professional Liquid Blending Mineral Powder Makeup Tools Rose Gold /White.
I think I have that.
Wow, good deep cuts.
Yeah.
You can shop us first at amazon.com/shop/crimewriterson. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
All right, Kevin, before we end the business section, do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Rachel Cole and Christy Martin. Bless you.
Bless you, Rachel. Bless you, Christy. Thank you so much for being saints. We really appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who belongs to our Patreon and appreciate everybody who's thinking about joining our Patreon. We hear it's the best value out there as Patreons go. Mm-hmm. Please consider joining.
And it's how we make a living. This is what keeps us going. We're not just,
It is.
Without you helping us, we can't do what we do.
You might hear an ad here or there, but that ain't it. Our Patreon is a really big deal to us. So please consider joining at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. We really, really appreciate it. Kevin, does that end the business section?
This ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
We've seen all the video call fails by now. The mute button mishaps, the cat cameos, people not realizing the camera's on when their pants are off. But none of this makes Fred feel any better about giving an entire sales pitch, mistakenly using a filter that turns him into an itsy-bitsy baby duck.
How do I turn this thing off?
It's too late, Fred. It's too late. When you realize it's better to do business in person, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to the Hilton Garden Inn, Fred. The meeting room is right down the hall.
Hilton, for the stay.
Walmart Plus members save on meeting up with friends. Save on having them over for dinner with free delivery with no hidden fees or markups. That's groceries, plus napkins, plus that vegetable chopper to make things a bit easier. Plus, members save on gas to go meet them in their neck of the woods. Plus, when you're ready for the ultimate sign of friendship, start a show together with your included Paramount Plus subscription. Walmart Plus members save on this plus so much more. Start a 30-day free trial at walmartplus.com. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
Kevin.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that you went to that bodies exhibit in Boston.
Oh, yeah. Does anybody remember that when it came to Boston like years and years ago? Did you go?
No, but I remember when it came to Boston.
Okay. So, yeah, this is...
I remember the controversy around it.
Right. So we walk through it and it's like, so it's skeletons, but like with the muscle. I mean, they're obviously not real muscles.
It looks like those posters you hang in your biology class.
Yes. But it wasn't just, people standing there with their palms up or whatever. They would pose them and like sitting down, drinking tea,
playing a guitar.
Like weird stuff like that. And I'm like, walking through going like, what the hell? Did somebody know when they were donating their body to whatever they thought they were donating their body to, that they would be posed in perpetuity, like kicking a soccer ball.
Sounds good.
Toby would love that.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is what I remember was being told or believing that the bodies came from China.
Yeah, they were all from China. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, it must be
no
perfectly regulated.
Not regulated.
I guess the Chinese people are more open-minded about performance art or whatever.
Nope.
But I saw it and it was different. It was strange.
Yeah. No, that's weird. It's very strange. And actually, that was very controversial. I remember that being really controversial at the time, and a lot of people didn't like it. And as she talks about in the podcast, people would walk out.
I believe it's still it's still touring or some version of it.
Yeah, it's like Shen Yun. You can see it everywhere.
Yeah, I think when we were in Canada, I saw like some commercial on TV for it. Like, yeah.
Someone needs to make a podcast about Shen Yun. I'm just pitching that right now. I would listen to the hell out of that. Dan Taberski, somebody needs to make a podcast about that. It's wild. There's some great articles about
Ashley, take notes. You got to go do that.
Shen Yun, you never seen those commercials about that dance troupe?
Yes, I've seen them.
Oh my God, there's some great reporting on it. It comes around like during the holidays or whatever. It's actually a cult. It has nothing to do with like Chinese history. It's like propaganda. Oh yeah, it's wild. Anyway, I digress.
Like Falun Gong or something?
Yeah, so no, it's not that, but it's along those lines. All right. Anyway, back to the Bodies podcast. So,
who wants to watch Rebecca get cremated?
Yeah, apparently I'm auditioning for that now. So, Toby, there is this really one character in the podcast that I felt like I know a lot of people like this. They live in my town because I live in a very small town. There's a woman who became friends with Megan who's really pissed at everybody for being mad at Megan because Megan was really nice to her. There's an episode where it's like, Montrose versus Megan. What did you think of that woman who was like real pissed at everyone for being mad at Megan? I don't know. She was kind of a character in the podcast, and I really enjoyed listening to her personally.
Yeah, I liked it too. I'm not sure if I'm super sympathetic to her viewpoint, but, I think she basically was like, hey, I was new in town and like nobody wanted to be my friend and Megan did. And I had a bunch of people over for my kid's birthday and they're like, oh, Megan's coming. I was like, if you don't want to see Megan, get out and, take your kids with you. I was like, oh, all right, here we go.
So if you were throwing cups of stuff at the car or saying horrible things, you were saying that in front of her daughter. I mean, why? The kid didn't do anything, They threw things. People were proud of it. They posted it on Facebook. That's just wrong. But these are the type of people that you have here in Montrose.
Maybe I'll have her watch my cremation. She seems tough.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't take any shit. Yeah, so I was listening to her, I'm like, so is this their idea of like they're trying to be like even-handed? They're like, well, she does cut up bodies and send them through the mail to people or whatever and cremates kitty litter along with people's actual remains. But on the other hand, this one woman who's new in town super likes her and is really pissed at everybody else. Like, is that the sort of fair and balance that we're getting? Because if so, I don't think it was super successful. In a fairly grim in general podcast, I don't know if it was lighthearted exactly, but it was like, I kind of thought it was sort of funny and it was sort of easy to kind of put myself into that kind of social situation in a town where there's a couple of people who are fast friends, like screw everybody else.
Yeah, it brought some levity to it, I think.
Yeah.
But she did have a point about the kids, like that, like Megan's daughter is, she's an innocent in this. Like, she shouldn't necessarily be shunned by her classmates because their parents don't like her parent.
She also had the point that Megan, like every woman who commits a crime, was in every headline, mother, blah, 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 blah. They never say father commits blah, blah, blah crime, but they always do it when it's a woman. Like, and so that, they never associate the kids of a father who commits a crime. It's always the kids of a woman who commits a crime.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think part of like Megan's, not I guess her defense, but like as she was like trying to come up with favorable things about like her defense is like, she's a mother and I don't want to, but the daughter herself, like, she shouldn't have to live in the town, doing the penance for her mother's and her grandmother's sins. And so as far as like the woman who was like, I only had one friend and it was the town ghoul. You know,
With
it's
the hair.
like, yeah.
The town ghoul with the hair.
With the hair. It's like, you know, I mean, I think it's interesting because you're right. It's like you kind of like read a lot between the lines about just like that woman. About like she's coming in, like, you know, she's like, oh, you know, this place sucks and I'm the worst person here. And so,
what a bunch of
somebody who
douchebags.
felt like she didn't fit in, and then like, you know, the worst, somebody who like was also
all these Volvo
shunned.
driving douchebags
Yeah.
hate me. Laura, so we have to
Basic
talk about
bitches.
we have to talk about Shirley, right? So
Yes.
Megan's mom, who apparently was completely complicit. It sounds like Megan kind of treated her like shit because Megan's mom was super fucking fast to flip on Megan. Like, it seems like Megan's mom would have flipped on anyone, right?
Called her things you wouldn't call a white woman.
Oh, no, called her everything but a white woman.
But a white, what the hell is that? But anyway,
I've never heard that expression before. I've called her everything but a white woman, but like I loved how Ashley then played it again in a clip, like a memory.
When they would get into a conflict or something, a lot of yelling, screaming, name calling, power play type things, mind game type things.
What would they call each other? Like
everything. I mean, everything but a white woman. It was, you know.
Obviously, this dynamic was super. It was like an Alfred Hitchcock sort of dynamic between Shirley and Megan. But Shirley, to me, was just like a whole nother level of scary. And we have people that are working there that kind of now talk about what it was like to work there. And there's like the woman that was like all about taxidermy. So she's not afraid of like dead things and seeing dead things. But even for her, she was like, Shirley is a bit much. And she recounts this story about Shirley talking to these EMTs after a car crash, which the victims had been decapitated. The EMTs and the first responders were even like, oh, like they couldn't believe the things that Shirley was saying about, like, you know, can you imagine what it looked like when their heads popped off? And just like a whole nother level. But, you know, when you hear about this dynamic between the mother and daughter in this funeral home and how they're just having these screaming fights and they're just not very nice to each other. And then you're hearing, you know, this mother out back with her chainsaw dismembering people. It was like one of those things you hear happen in real life, but you're like, this is like plucked straight from the script of a horror movie, literally. Like, I mean, I don't know if any of the rest of you like sort of thought about like what sort of person, like the psychology of like what happened to Shirley that made her able to just do all of that and continue to do it in a way that was just pretty disturbing.
Yeah. What do you think about Shirley, Toby?
You know, she's not the best mother, as far as I can tell.
Well, she let this hairstyle happen.
There's
put away your phone, Rebecca.
Listen,
it's a visual gag.
There's a fair amount of coiffure shaming in this podcast.
That's because apparently everybody who talks to Ashley, it's the first thing they mention. And I wasn't
Just
going
like
to
you.
I wasn't going to look it up, except that they kept coming up, so I looked it up. It is pretty incredible.
I almost never look up anything on these, and I did look up to see how big her hair actually was. And she goes through different phases of big hair, but they're all big. It's a weird dynamic that they're in business together doing this super shady thing, but they're also at each other's throats. Shirley's willing to flip on her daughter just at the drop of a hat.
She's relieved, probably, right?
Yeah. But the best part of it is her name is Shirley, which my favorite part of the entire podcast is when they did sort of an airplane, like within 2 sentences, used the name Shirley and then used Shirley as in this must back to back.
Surely you can't be serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Investigators determined them to be victims of Megan and Shirley's fraud. Surely these companies had a process for making sure the bodies they were buying weren't stolen. Shirley's fraud. Surely.
You know, if this whole thing wasn't like so kind of ghoulish and disturbing, there's a sort of Dateline-ish aspect to this, I think, like that. It wasn't hard for me to picture this being a Dateline podcast with Keith Morrison being Keith Morrison while describing all this stuff.
And then she lost her head.
Kevin, I have a final question for you.
Okay.
One of our main sources in this podcast is a woman who did PR for a funeral home. Have you ever heard of someone? You used to do PR. Were you ever called to do PR for a funeral, for a small family-owned funeral home?
No, but I did like the inclusion of her. But what do you do for public relations for a funeral home? It seems like the only time a funeral home would need public relations is when, like, I don't know, you're in the middle of a body snatching scandal. That's what you would need.
Yeah.
I think a lot of funeral homes, when I say like they get a lot of their business from repeat business, It doesn't mean, I'm not saying like you bury somebody twice, but like
family on funeral homes.
Well, I mean, a lot of families use the same funeral home.
I've been at the same funeral home for everybody who's died in your family. It's been at the same funeral home.
Oh yeah. And my parents.
You know that guy.
Barry Farrell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My mom would like say, like, if I scared her or something, like, oh, just take me straight to Barry Farrell's, you know, and Barry be
He's
there.
super nice. I'll give him credit. He's super nice.
You know, it's if your husband or your dad or your granddad passed away and you all live in the same town, you probably go to the same place. So it's just, there was like one other funeral parlor. And if it's, you know, it's the word of mouth kind of thing. I don't know, like, what kind of PR you're doing. You know, I don't know. Maybe you're buying ads in the Sunday bulletin at the church. I don't know.
I have a final question for you, Toby, because you mentioned this before. I just want to ask you this. Do you think it matters whose ashes you got if the person who died, if it's important to them that their ashes be like put somewhere? Do you think it's important then that it be actually their ashes? Like if I, for instance, say I really like, it's very important to me that my ashes be put off of, you know, this bridge in this place. Do you think it's reasonable for my loved ones to think it's very important that they actually be my ashes if that was my wish?
Yeah. Like if somebody said to me when I die, can you put my ashes in this particular place or whatever?
Yeah.
Like I would feel duty bound to honor that.
Would you feel bad if it was cat litter? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Look, when people die, like you should honor their wishes for what they want to have happen to their bodies in general. I think it's just like, for me personally, I don't like feel super strongly about it, but if other people do, like I 100% feel like you should honor those wishes to the best that you can. And I know that there's people who I know who are just like, I want my ashes spread here or there, or, you know, and I mean, if called upon, I would do it.
But is the essence of your question for the dead person what they don't know won't kill them?
No, I was just
They'll
curious.
never know.
It's a little late for that there.
I wanted to resolve the dangling chat of Toby's earlier comment as well. I was just curious to know what his thoughts would be on that.
Chekhov's ashes?
No, I was just curious. I was just very curious. New Patreon level, by the way, is deciding what happens to Toby's body.
Exactly. It's going to be a lottery.
He doesn't care.
But if I want to donate my body to like a med school or something, I'd be kind of bummed if they like cut it up and like send it to some plasticine or whatever those places were. And, then it's like stuck in some lab somewhere.
Kicking a soccer ball for the rest of eternity.
But it's not something I'm going to spend a lot of time thinking about. And I certainly hope my family doesn't go through any like trauma if it doesn't happen exactly the way I want it to. I mean,
yeah.
Whatever.
You know what would be worse is to like see this newspaper article while you're in hospice.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, I do know. Shit.
Woman bilks hospice patients by promising them X, and you're like, what did I just
sign? What did I sign? Oh shit.
Yeah. I kept. I just signed a new deal with a hospice. That part made me sick. That was unbelievable.
And how many she was going to get, like, from that like, oh, there's going to be a lot
big pipeline
now. And I'm like,
I grew up across the street from a funeral home.
Really?
Yep. I was friends
Sounds like you missed a money-making opportunity.
One of my buddies, his dad was the funeral home director and embalmer.
Did you take the limo to the prom?
It's called a hearse, Kevin, and it would have been a little strange. But yeah, I don't think they actually had their own.
The family rides behind in a...
The family often rides behind in a limousine. At least at Barry Farrell's, that's how it works.
Oh, yeah. They got 2 limousines at Barry Farrell's.
Got like stretch limos.
Big families. Yeah. We got to fit a whole bunch of people in.
Black Cadillac? I don't know. I can't remember how that all worked.
Clearly, it wasn't Irish.
I was a child.
Man. Yeah.
I was a mere child.
We've seen all the video call fails by now. The mute button mishaps, the cat cameos, people not realizing the camera's on when their pants are off. But none of this makes Fred feel any better about giving an entire sales pitch, mistakenly using a filter that turns him into an itsy-bitsy baby duck.
How do I turn this thing off?
It's too late, Fred. It's too late. When you realize it's better to do business in person, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to the Hilton Garden Inn, Fred. The meeting room is right down the hall.
Hilton, for the stay.
Walmart Plus members save on meeting up with friends. Save on having them over for dinner with free delivery with no hidden fees or markups. That's groceries plus napkins plus that vegetable chopper to make things a bit easier. Plus, members save on gas to go meet them in their neck of the woods. Plus, when you're ready for the ultimate sign of friendship, start a show together with your included Paramount Plus subscription. Walmart Plus members save on this plus so much more. Start a 30-day free trial at walmartplus.com. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
Okay, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Cover Up Body Brokers? Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Body Brokers?
I'm going to go mild thumbs up with this. I think this is a really, honestly important story to get out there, because one of the things I came away from after listening to this was just the lack of oversight and regulation that allowed something like this to happen. And hopefully by getting more stories like this out there, maybe that'll lead to some people maybe doing something about that. I'm going mild thumbs up because I felt like a lot of this podcast started to get repetitive in terms of some of the stories we were hearing. And I was hoping for a little bit more on, some of the psychology of the people involved, but also, efforts to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. So it was very interesting. It was very graphic. It was very disturbing. But at the same time, we had a situation like this near us in New England. So it is something that happens. And I guess something to be aware of when we get ready to cremate Rebecca. So mild thumbs up from me.
Toy Ball, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Cover Up Body Brokers?
I guess I'm a mild thumbs up. It's fine. The reality is that I just didn't find the subject super interesting. So my attention kind of wandered at times or whatever. But, some of the people they interview have interesting perspectives. They certainly interview people who are angry and feel betrayed and, suffered additional trauma in addition to losing a loved one. The whole body parts industry is pretty wild and pretty messed up. But again, it couldn't sustain me for that period of time. But I think there are other people who are probably more interested in this. And, the writing's fine. I think the journalism's pretty good. There's a couple of voices in particular that I thought were strong. So mild thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
I'm going thumbs up. I thought the storytelling was pretty good by Ashley. Pretty sturdy, I'd say. She seemed to get all the right people here and hit the proper emotional notes. So I'd say that that's a pretty solid effort. There's still sort of larger parts of this kind of story where you could tell that she tried very hard to learn more about and was sort of stonewalled despite all the time that she put into it, which I think would have really been very enlightening. It's not a spoiler to say that the way that this funeral home operated was not above board, but it's very hard to sort of get into what happens when these bodies are brokered properly. I don't know, that part becomes kind of murky, but what's really important is sort of the people here in Colorado and what they went through and what the alleged crime was. So even though there's some things there that I'm still kind of wondering about, I thought that she landed the plane. So thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up for me too. I didn't like it as much as I liked Ashley's previous podcast, Footprints in the Snow from Suspect, but I think that what I was missing was, and there were some zoom out points, there was an interview that I mentioned in our review that I really thought was very illuminating. There were some federal law enforcement interviews that were somewhat illuminating. I wanted a little bit more of the zoom out. It was very focused on this one case and this one person, but I'm not sure that this one case is illustrative of the kind of crime that this really is. And Toby mentioned during our review that this felt very much like a Dateline-ish story, and I don't think this is as much of a one-off. And I think that she tries to illustrate that in a few different ways, but I think a little bit more of a zoom out would have made a more satisfying podcast for me overall. That being said, reporting is good. It's solid. I know that a lot of our listeners really got a lot out of it, and so I can't ignore that either. So yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up too. Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the crime of the week. Sheesh, Kevin. If your name's Ryan, you're invited to attend this year's Ryan Rodeo, but only if your name is Ryan. The group known as Ryan Meetup is looking to break the record for the largest same-name gathering, an honor currently held by 2,300 Ivans in Bosnia. The Austin, Texas event will feature a barbecue, a rodeo, bull riding, and local music by Ryan Hunter. And for clarification, Bryans are not allowed. They refer to Bryans as B-list Ryans, and they're prohibited from attending. They will be checking IDs. The Ryan Rodeo hopes its luck is better than the Kyles, who tried last year and failed to break the record at the Kyle Fair.
Fuck you, Kyle.
So panel, the Laura League, the Toby Troop, the Kevin Club, the Rebecca Roundup. What kind of programming can we expect at your same name gathering? Laura Bricker, what kind of programming would you put on at the Laura League?
Well, I think at the Laura League, it's going to be a pretty small gathering because I really haven't met that many other Lauras in the world.
It'd be intimate.
It would be an intimate gathering. We might do some ski joring with the donkey. We might do some lassoing, some cheese eating, some wine drinking, and some cat petting.
Oh, what about you, Toby Ball? What would the Toby Troop be doing?
Well, I think Laura would like it because when your name is Toby, you've run into a hell of a lot of animals also named Toby. So I think we'd be probably overrun with pets.
What about you, Kevin? What's happening at the Kevin Club?
Me and all the other Kevins are going to Starbucks and fuck up the barista's day.
Nice.
All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
Tracy Allen and our Facebook discussion group. By the time this podcast comes out, this is done and over. So I don't know if Tracy Allen's cat, Mr. Norris, won America's Favorite Pet contest that she was trying to get people to vote for him. He was going to get on the cover of a magazine if he won. But in lieu of that, in lieu of Mr. Morris winning that, I thought he looked like a great cat of the week for Crime Writers On. And here's some of the things she had to say about him. Mr. Norris has a special blanket he loves to drag around the house and make biscuits with. He also loves his yellow catnip banana, as do my cats, Strings. He is a very good boy. For treats, he is a fan of greenies and the occasional lickable treat. He is also a gentleman. Good job, Mr. Norris. We had no plans to get another pet because our then 15-year-old spicy diva, Chloe, hadn't lived with another animal. We never wanted to stir things up, but in 2020, my brother and sister-in-law needed a place for him. When relocating after college, we gave it a shot, and he has been so sweet and patient since day one. He's almost made friends with her.
Ooh.
So he's a very cute gray cat. And then I also loved at the end of her nomination, she had like a so many pictures of Mr. Norris. And I can relate to that because I think half of the photos on my phone are cat pictures. So Mr. Norris, I hope, and he has sunglasses on in one of the photos, which is very charming.
Do you think that not winning America's Favorite Pet, you think that being Cat of the Week is a good replacement for that?
In my world,
yeah, I think so. I think it's better. Frankly, I think it's better. All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you and nominate their animals to be Cat of the Week, of course, it could be any kind of animal. How can they find you online?
They can find me at Laura Bricker on Twitter and Instagram.
Toby Ball, folks want to show you their pet's named Toby. How can they find you online?
At Toby Ball NH.
Kevin Flynn. People want to say, hey, Kevin, my name's Kevin, too.
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, if your name's Rebecca, I'm always happy to meet you. You can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show everywhere, including Twitter at Crime Writers On. And I encourage you to join our incredible Facebook group. People who are in it say it's the best Facebook group out there. It's called the Crime Writers On Official Facebook Discussion Group.
You got it. Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, just find us on Facebook. There's a pinned post there. Hit join the group. We'll let you in if you're not a jerk. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll also get the Crime Writers On After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. The executive producer of this fine program is Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, The Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where I also do my hair up really, really big, because that's how you get closer to him. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will
With
catch
a capital H, him.
later. Him. I'm not
Him.
saying who he is. It's just him.
What about her?
Him. Yes, her. It. You know, him. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
Later. Amen.
Oh, here comes a kitten.
Oh, it's a cuckoo kitty.
Even Kevin said, "Aw, he hates cats."
Fuck them cats. No, I'm just kidding.
I love that kitty.
That cat's so cute.
Well, he's been sleeping for 3 hours.
I bet that cat doesn't pee on the bathroom floor.
Eat shit, Rebecca.
Partners in Crime Media.
We've seen all the video call fails by now. The mute button mishaps, the cat cameos, people not realizing the camera's on when their pants are off. But none of this makes Fred feel any better about giving an entire sales pitch, mistakenly using a filter that turns him into an itsy-bitsy baby duck.
How do I turn that thing off?
It's too late, Fred. It's too late. When you realize it's better to do business in person, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to the Hilton Garden Inn, Fred. The meeting room is right down the hall.
Hilton, for the stay.